Like, subscribe, and hype the video. Also, leave a comment on any topics you want to hear about in the future. Okay, let's dive in. In our last episode, we walked through what the James Webb Space Telescope has actually been discovering since it began science operations in 2022. Galaxies that challenge our formation models, stellar nurseries revealed for the first time, the first detailed detection of carbon dioxide in an exoplanet atmosphere, and new water plume data from Saturn's moon Enceladus that reinforced it as one of the most astrobiologically interesting places in our solar system. But almost from the moment Webb's first images were released, a set of conspiracy theories began circulating online that go in a very different direction. Today, we're examining every major claim that the images are computer-generated fakes, that Webb is finding evidence of alien civilizations that's being suppressed, that certain anomalous objects in the deep field images are being hidden from the public, and what the actual documented evidence says about each of these claims. Let's get into it. This is the most common claim circulating about Webb, and it's worth addressing carefully because it contains a kernel of truth that's being significantly misrepresented in how it spreads online. The claim typically goes like this. The images released by NASA from the James Webb Space Telescope are not real photographs but computer-generated composites, produced by artists rather than representing actual captured light, and therefore cannot be trusted as genuine scientific data. Here's the kernel of truth embedded in this claim. The colorful, visually stunning images released by NASA are indeed processed and color-mapped, and the specific colors used don't always represent what a human eye would see if it were somehow placed in the same location. Webb observes primarily in infrared wavelengths that are completely invisible to human eyes, so the raw data it captures has no inherent color that maps onto human color perception. Scientists and image processors assign visible colors to different infrared wavelength ranges, a technique called false color mapping or representative color, to make the data visually meaningful and to highlight different structures and chemical compositions present in the image. This is not faking. It is standard scientific image processing that has been used in astronomy for decades, including by Hubble, and that is openly described in the technical documentation accompanying every released image. The underlying data, the actual measurements of infrared light captured by Webb's detectors, is real, scientifically calibrated, and made publicly available through the Mikulski Archive for Space Telescopes, where any researcher or member of the public can download and examine the raw data files directly. Independent astronomers and research institutions around the world regularly use this same raw data to produce their own independent analyses and images. Like, subscribe, and hype the video. And let's move to the claim that the images contain suppressed evidence of alien structures. This theory looks at the Webb deep field images, which contain thousands of galaxies and other objects in extraordinary detail, and identifies specific points of light or unusual shaped objects as evidence of alien megastructures, spacecraft, or other artificial constructions that NASA is allegedly aware of but not publicly discussing. The specific objects cited in these claims typically fall into a handful of categories: unusually bright point sources, elongated or asymmetric-looking objects, objects with visible diffraction spikes, and regions where the image appears to show unusual geometry or structure. Each of these has straightforward explanations within normal astronomical image processing in physics. Unusually bright point sources in deep field images are typically foreground stars within our own galaxy, bright enough to completely saturate Webb's detectors and produce the distinctive six-pointed diffraction spike pattern that appears throughout Webb's images, caused by the hexagonal geometry of its mirror segments. These diffraction spikes are an optical artifact of the telescope's mirror design, not evidence of artificial structures. Elongated or asymmetric-looking galaxies are common in the early universe, consistent with what our models predict about irregular protogalaxies and actively merging galaxy pairs. And the sheer density of objects in a deep field image means that essentially any pattern-seeking behavior will find shapes or alignments that look unusual to a human eye trained to recognize faces and structures. a well-documented cognitive phenomenon called apophenia, or the tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random data. This one is interesting because it's based on real, documented scientific findings, but dramatically overstates what those findings actually mean in a way that has spread widely online. When Webb began finding massive, well-developed galaxies in the very early universe that appeared larger and more mature than standard cosmological models predicted, a wave of headlines and social media posts claimed that Webb had broken cosmology, disproved the Big Bang, or revealed that the entire framework of modern cosmology was fundamentally wrong, and that scientists were suppressing or struggling to cover up this discovery. What's actually happening in the scientific community is more nuanced and considerably less dramatic. The unexpected early galaxy findings are real. They're documented in peer-reviewed papers published by multiple independent research groups, openly presented at conferences, and actively discussed in the cosmological literature. But our models of early galaxy formation need refinement is a very different claim from the Big Bang didn't happen. The Big Bang framework, the evidence that the universe began in an extremely hot, dense state, roughly 13.8 billion years ago, and has been expanding and cooling ever since, is supported by multiple independent lines of evidence, including cosmic microwave background radiation, the observed abundance of light elements, the large-scale structure of the universe, and numerous other measurements that have nothing to do with galaxy formation timelines. What Webb is potentially revealing is that the specific processes by which the first galaxies formed may have been faster or more efficient than our current models account for. A refinement of the model, not a demolition of it. Scientists are openly and actively investigating this, publishing their work and discussing competing interpretations. This is science working exactly as it's supposed to, not a cover-up. Like, subscribe and hype the video, and let's talk about the suppression claims directly. The suppression version of Webb conspiracy theories claims that NASA is aware of discoveries, alien structures, evidence of advanced civilizations, or anomalous objects that defy natural explanation, and is actively withholding this information from the public. Here's the most direct response to this claim. Webb's raw data is publicly available. Every observation Webb makes is eventually released through the Mikulski Archive for Space Telescopes, a publicly accessible database that any researcher, amateur astronomer, or member of the public can access and download without restriction, usually within 12 months of the observation being made. Many Webb observations are immediately available with no waiting period at all. Independent astronomers at universities and research institutions in dozens of countries regularly access and analyze this same data, completely independently of NASA, and publish their findings in the open literature. A suppression of genuinely extraordinary findings would require not just NASA's cooperation, but the silence of every independent researcher worldwide who accesses the same publicly available raw data and reaches the same anomalous conclusions. A coordination problem at least as large as the one we discussed regarding the Apollo program, and equally implausible given the global, decentralized nature of modern astronomical research. Here's the genuinely exciting, genuinely real version of what Webb might reveal in its coming years of operation, and it's actually more extraordinary than most of the conspiracy theories circulating about it. Webb's primary mission has a planned duration of at least 10 years, and its fuel reserves suggest it could operate considerably longer than that. As it continues accumulating data on exoplanet atmospheres, the scientific community is actively targeting habitable zone planets. Worlds in the right distance range from their host stars to potentially support liquid water, with the specific goal of searching for biosignatures, chemical combinations in planetary atmospheres that would be most naturally explained by biological processes. The molecules scientists are most interested in finding together, oxygen, methane, and water vapor in particular combinations, would be extraordinarily difficult to maintain simultaneously through purely chemical processes without a biological source continuously replenishing them. Finding all three together in the atmosphere of a habitable zone planet would be one of the most significant scientific discoveries in human history. Webb has the technical capability to search for these signatures. It hasn't found them yet, but the search is ongoing, and the results will be published openly when they come, whatever they turn out to be. So here's where everything about Webb's conspiracy theories actually lands. The images are processed from real infrared data using standard, publicly documented, openly described techniques. The raw data is freely available for independent verification. The unusual objects in deep-field images have straightforward optical and astronomical explanations. The early galaxy findings represent a real, openly discussed scientific puzzle that researchers are actively working to resolve, not a cover-up. And the suppression claim fails against the reality of a publicly accessible raw data archive used by independent researchers worldwide. What makes Webb genuinely remarkable doesn't need any embellishment. It's a telescope that's already reshaping our understanding of the early universe, revealing hidden stellar nurseries, beginning to read the chemistry of distant worlds, and actively searching for the first potential signs of life beyond Earth. All of it happening right now, all of it publicly documented, and all of it more extraordinary than most people realize. If you've made it through both episodes, let me know in the comments which Webb discovery you think is most significant. Like, subscribe, and hype the video, and I'll see you in the next one.